What is something that one person managed to ruin for everyone? Story 1. A friend of mine used to work in a brewery in the summer breaks. They were allowed to bring beer cans that were dented home with them to drink. No real restrictions. So one smartass filled up his car with cases full of dented cans and tried to sell them on the street at a discounted price. No more beer for anyone. Story 2. My last job had summer Fridays where instead of 5 days of 9, 5 we'd have 4 days of 8, 6 and Fridays off. We got a new boss and a coworker told her that nobody really wants summer Fridays. We'd all so much rather keep the office open every day because isn't that better? The new boss canceled summer Fridays and no one ever talked to that lady again unless it was necessary for work. And she cried that we were bullying her because hanging out together 5 days a week is better than only hanging out 4. None of us were friends outside of work. Apparently, our office was her social life and she didn't want to face long weekends alone. It was sad, but she really spoiled things for a lot of people. And we disliked the boss right off the bat too because she just believed this lady instead of asking anyone else. Like she just wanted an excuse coming in to cancel our summer Fridays. Story 3. The kid who jumped off of 7th floor of a building here in Turkey because he thought he was a Pokemon. They stopped airing the show because people thought it was bad influence on kids. And Pokemon was huge back when I was a kid, so pretty much every kid back then was devastated. Story 4. The kid from the big city on the other side of the state that was in a juvie program who visited our tiny rural town and went to the lake. At 14, knew he couldn't swim, went out to the high dive and jumped in and drowned. His mom sued the owners of the beach at the lake so it closed after over 100 years and never reopened. Story 5. I once heard a story on Reddit where someone said that at the Tim Hortons that they used to work at, they used to give the leftover remaining food to the homeless shelter at the end of the day. However, sometime later they were told to stop for some reason. One day while dumping the leftover food at the trash, the op asked one of the homeless men why they had to stop, and then found out that it was apparently because one of the homeless men at the shelter one day decided to fake choking on a Timbit so that he could try to sue the place or something. So the Tim Hortons decided to stop giving the leftover food so that they wouldn't have to face something like that again. Story 6. One ice cream truck driver in my town hit and killed one kid, and after that, they permanently banned ice cream trucks in my whole town. Edit. Huge correction. Another car hit the kid trying to cut around the truck while it stopped. The ice cream truck driver didn't hit the kid. This was back in the days before they had the mandatory folding stop signs on the sides of the ice cream trucks. Yet they are still banned now, even though stopping school buses tempt the same idiots ice cream trucks did. Story 7. There was a music festival in Atlanta called Music Midtown. It took place in a park in downtown ATL, and, like any music festival, was full of people in various states of sobriety. Enter Philip Evans, a pro-gun activist. He challenged Music Midtown's gun ban, hoping that Live Nation would drop the ban. After the courts sided with Evans, Live Nation decided to cancel Music Midtown in 2022 due to safety concerns over allowing festival attendees to carry firearms. After retuning for 2023, Music Midtown is once again canceled in 2024. Story 8. There was this guy at our local swimming pool who thought it would be funny to bring a bunch of live crickets and release them into the water. Now they have a strict no-bug policy, and everyone has to go through a thorough bag check before entering. Story 9. At my college, there was a kid who was perpetually stoned and burned things in the microwave because he pressed too many numbers, then forgot his food and it would make the microwave smell like smoke. Well, one day he set it on fire, and the college banned microwaves. I think up until the college closed in 21, microwaves were still banned. Story 10. At work, people were abusing an app that would let you clock in even if you weren't at your seat. They revoked out privileges. At the same job, a coworker decorated another coworker's desk and tossed confetti and glitter around our cubicle. We didn't think it was a big deal because they paid for housekeeping. Well, the housekeepers refused to vacuum because they said that glitter/confetti ruins their vacuum. Our manager wanted us to get on our hands and knees to pick it up, and we refused. Glitter and confetti is now banned. At an old job, someone burnt popcorn in the microwave, and because of how the air ducts were built, it stunk up 4 floors of the building. Popcorn was banned. Story 11. Some jerk put poison in Halloween candy and razor blades in an apple to kill his kid in an effort to collect an insurance policy. Because of him, people freak out thinking drugs will be given out to their kids on Halloween. Nobody is going to give out gummy or candy edibles because that stuff is expensive as hell. Nobody is going to give out ecstasy tabs either. Story 12. The woman who tried drying her pet poodle in a microwave. Yes, that actually happened. Now all microwaves have to come with a warning to not stick small aminals in it, despite that being common sense. In fact, most warning labels are the result of someone doing something stupid. Peanut butter shouldn't need to warn me that it contained peanuts. It's on the label, my guy. Edit. Fact-checking it. I will have to partially retract my first assertion. This is apparently a well-known urban myth, and while there have been documented cases of maliciously putting small animals in a microwave or other appliance, there are apparently no documented cases of accidentally microwaving a poodle, or a baby, or a chihuahua, etc. I still assert that people did it, and that's why we have warnings not to do it. Story 13. My high school used to have prom on a boat that would sail around the lake for a few hours during the event. I wasn't even that into school events, but I was so excited for boat prom. It sounded like such a fun idea. The year before my prom, a few students got super wasted and ripped all the prom decorations down and chucked them in the water. They forever canceled boat prom after that, and I had mine in a sketchy convention center next to a highway. Story 14. TD Bank used to have coin-counting machines called penny arcades, inherited from Commerce Bank, which anyone could use for a fee. Bank members could use them for free. A Today News report exposed the machines as unreliable, admittedly sometimes by a big margin. But the final nail in their coffin was a federal lawsuit brought by a man from New York who protested being shortchanged $1.51 out of $57. Figuring it wasn't worth the bother of fixing them, TD simply took all the machines out of service after that. I still get annoyed at that man every time I need to lug a jar of change in New York City to a distant Coinstar machine instead of the TD Bank a block away. Story 15. My last job, our supervisor was giving us a 60-minute lunch when we were only supposed to get 30 minutes. It was this way for 15 years. Someone got caught leaving the company during work hours without clocking out. There was an investigation by HR trying to gather information. One of my dumbass coworkers mentions to HR that we get an extra 30 minutes for lunch during the investigation. The very next day, email comes out stating that we only get 30 minutes off for lunch. He couldn't keep his mouth shut. It had nothing to do with the investigation. Story 16. At my high school, years and years and years ago, the year 9s would take a camping trip to a nearby city. The trip usually finished with a visit to a particular night market, and then an overnight bus ride home. The trip itinerary hadn't changed in years until we came along, and one of my classmates scored ecstasy. They put her in the seat in front of me for the drive home. She was pinging the whole way. That was the last time the year 9s got to visit the night market. Anya Brittany. Story 17. A loser named Martin Bryant is directly responsible for Australia's strict gun laws. April 28, 1996, he committed what was then the world's worst mass shooting. Known as the Port Arthur Massacre, he killed 35 and injured 23. A framework of extreme firearm restrictions was implemented within 2 weeks. Australia hasn't had a mass shooting since Asterisk. Bryant pleaded guilty and received 35 life sentences without possibility of parole. Asterisk. Of course, there have been gun crime and people have died, even multiple casualties, but none that fit the specifics of mass shooting. Story 18. The dickhead of a father who sponsored a gun license to their mentally fucked up son who should have never been granted said license by the Illinois State Police due to red flag laws caused half the guns on the market to be banned in IL and current owners turned into felons. When I say half the guns, this also includes lightsabers and other movie props like Star Wars blasters, non-functioning display guns, some airsoft parts, some shotguns, some basic pistols because they have a threaded barrel, all .50 cal centerfire guns, all 50 BMG ammo, and virtually any rifle with a removable magazine and their parts. No, you can't even buy a handguard. This is all regardless of caliber, because all those before-mentioned things are, and I quote from the silver spoon-born billionaire governor with private security, weapons of war with high-speed magazines. Unless you're a cop or retired cop, then you can buy whatever the fuck you want. Meanwhile, this year more people were shot and killed than ever in Chicago on 4th of July holiday. Story 19 was working as a contractor for the government. The company in charge of the contract had us use an app on our phones called Easy Workforce to clock in and out, plus it had a button for lunches. There were some bugs, and the building we were in didn't have the best connection depending on where you stood, but it was a good app that made things simple. As expected, people don't want to work. So some people figure out how to change the location settings for the app to place their work location at home instead of at the building. If you weren't in the building, you couldn't clock in on the app, but apparently they found a workaround. So people abused this hack to scam the company. But what really broke the camel's back came next. One of the managers hired for the contract figured out how to go into Easy Workforce and change the hours worked. Not only did they do this to help their friend who was under them make money without working, but they increased the hours to more than 40 per week. That's what got them caught because our contract didn't allow overtime, meaning 80 hours was a huge red flag. In response, the contract company terminated the use of the app for clocking in. They then brought in these time clocks that required you to use a fingerprint scanner to log in. These things were absolutely horrible, as first we had to get our fingerprints into the system. If there was even a millimeter off in how you put your finger on the scanner, it wouldn't work. The managers had to go collect them from their supervisor, and they were assigned for each area. So if the manager grabbed the wrong one, that's 2 areas whose employees couldn't clock in. If they didn't have a good enough signal or cloud connection, they wouldn't work. And they were always put in the worst locations each day, especially when you had a line of +20 trying to clock in and out for the day. For a group of 300 spread across a large building, they only had 6 them in the first 2 weeks they brought them in. So you had lines of +40 trying to clock in and out 3 times a day, 5 days a week. So yeah, the app was completely ruined by one stupid manager plus lazy employees, leading to a garbage time clock system that everyone hated. Story 20. Not one person, but my 7th grade class ruined the traditional field trip to the city ballet. It was tradition to go to this one food court to eat after. We didn't clean up after ourselves and all boarded the escalators at once, breaking one of them, then ran through the city streets while ignoring traffic signs and our field trip monitors to get to our buses parked a few blocks away. Our school was banned from the ballet and food court after that. Story 21. My work hires temps during busy season. Also because it's so busy, they try and keep up morale by bringing lunch in, handing out swag, etc. I was invited to attend a leadership meeting with higher-ups, and one of the speaking points from an AVP was to inform all that a past temp attempted to sue, saying that if she was going to be treated as an employee, getting the same treats as the permanent employees, she should be hired on as an employee. I have no idea what happened with the lawsuit, but because if this person, now we still use temps, but we're not allowed to give them any free swag. Not sure about the food. I was gobsmacked. Like now I'm training temps and perms in same class and I have to discreetly give the perms new hire swag and try not to let the temps see because I don't want them to feel bad. I can't exactly explain to them why they can't have it, so it just feels crappy. Story 22. I ruined Liquid Nitrogen Day for Physics 3 at my university. Liquid Nitrogen Day is maybe not what you think, but it's exactly what it says. We were literally handed a styrofoam cup of liquid nitrogen and were told, go play. The point of this was that we were to watch the little nitrogen droplets float across the table or other surfaces. This is due to the nitrogen turning to gas and providing a cushion for the droplet to float on. What we were apparently not supposed to do was put the liquid nitrogen in a sealed water bottle and make it explode outside the physics building. Well, I wasn't aware of this rule and did exactly that. As soon as my lab group got the cup of liquid nitrogen, we put it into a plastic water bottle, sealed it, and went outside. Being cautious fuckabouts, we decided to throw our bomb at the trees nearby instead of the cars parked along the street. When the water bottle hit and made the largest sound I've ever heard and we fell to the ground laughing hysterically. This was only like a year after 9/11, so laughing at explosions seemed totally reasonable to me. Through the din, I heard a voice behind me through the laughter and my ears ringing. What is going on here? I, being one who did not consider any consequences before taking action, responded, It's Liquid Nitrogen Day, bitches! Knowing that I was speaking to the dean may have curbed my language, but we will never know. Sorry, WKU physics students. I ruined your chance to experience liquid nitrogen. Story 23. We used to operate on an honor system at work where you'd clock in and out as needed, allowing for a few minutes leeway or early departures to beat traffic. Overtime was logged simply by signing a sheet and getting paid accordingly. However, one person abused this trust by falsely claiming overtime daily and leaving hours early by skipping lunch breaks. Now we're required to clock in via GPS on our phones precisely within a 5-minute window of our shift times. Missing this window or encountering technical issues could result in losing a day's pay unless you promptly notify your boss to resolve the issue. This new system poses challenges, especially for third shift workers who might need assistance at unconventional hours. Story 24. My school used to have a yearly trip to Costa Rica to build schools for children in lower income areas. Never went on one, but it was a big thing. It was always run by my Spanish teacher, who was my favorite teacher. It happened well after I graduated, but a group of boys on the Costa Rica trip decided it would be funny to sneak out in the middle of the night while in a foreign country, while the teacher was asleep. They were found perfectly safe, but when everyone returned to the U.S., instead of the parents of these horrible kids reprimanding them for acting like idiots, they blamed the teacher, got her fired, and now no more Costa Rica trips. Story 25. High school used to sell instant ramen at lunch, and I loved it, because the cup ramen was way more tasty than the normal lunch you'd usually get. So I always got that for lunch. Probably wasn't healthy, but it was a good alternative to the normal lunch. Then, one day, some girl got into a fight and weaponized her cup of noodles, throwing hot boiling water at some other girl's face. School took those noodles off the menu and never sold them again. Story 26. I'm the asshole who got very tight controls installed on my high school's internet access. Was on the newspaper staff. Everyone did some goofing off on the computers, Wikipedia, Facebook, etc. This girl in the class got mad at me. She made fun of a shirt I wore, so I kind of fired back. She took it very personal and told the principal I was surfing the net all period instead of writing my assignments. I got 3 days of in-school suspension, so when I got out, I decided to return the favor. Next time we were in class, she got up to use the bathroom and left her account logged in. I printed her browser history and took it to the principal and pointed out that she was on Facebook the whole damned period, every single day. She got 3 days of in-school suspension as well, and the whole school got much tighter restrictions on internet usage. Worth it.